When somebody that you're doing business with says something amazing about your brand in a natural and authentic way, and it just comes up in conversation, there is no better testimonial that you could possibly put on social media than that. Now, the first podcast that I did went to top 5% globally for business and marketing. So we're posting it on multiple channels. I wake up one morning after about a year of doing this. I flip on LinkedIn and I see my face 7 times. And I hadn't even posted yet. Should I give the secret sauce here? I don't know if I should give the secret sauce away. Maybe. I'm going to give him the secret sauce. The rule of thumb in podcasting, especially when you're doing it for a business, the rule of thumb is, we are here with a legend. How did you get to this point? Tell us a little bit about, you got to feed that beast, baby. You're kind of flipping the script on that. Just talk a little bit about the mindset that you have. Welcome to the JMO Show. We have an expectation that this is going to be the best work that we've ever done. Most executives think their job is to manage or lead people. The mission is finding an obsession, a passion, a mission, a purpose, something so strong that you want to tell the world about it, that you want to be the champion for it. And moreover, you want to bring people along with you. So listen to me right now. If you've been feeling like you haven't been playing life big enough, that ends right now. If I'm being completely honest with you, I don't like doing podcasts where it's just me. I'm an interviewer. Every podcast that I've ever done has been with the intent of bringing on an amazing guest to interview them about their story. Like, how do they get started? How do they build their brand? How do they get people to come to work every day and perform at a level that takes care of their customers, that generates revenue, generates profit, creates efficiency? Like, every episode that I've ever done has been interviewing people to talk about that. But in this first episode, I felt that it made sense to set the table as to what we're going to be doing here. We are going to go back to an interview style, which is going to be pretty fun because we're going to bring in people from all different industries, and we're going to get to understand not about the industry per se, but more about how they get somebody who, let's say, is here to get to here. How do they grow people? How do they multiply opportunities? How do they build their brand, create attention, create awareness? How do they get their business from zero to millions and millions and millions of dollars? Most executives and CEOs are caught up in the day-to-day of doing that. So it's really refreshing when you get them to actually look back and think about how they actually did it and tell that story. Within that should be unbelievably impactful information that anybody that's listening to the episode could absolutely use and implement. So let's get started here with how this came to be. So in 2019, I started messing around with content creation. I was taking my phone, and I was just doing little did you know videos, right? I had a LinkedIn following, I had an Instagram following, I had some Facebook following, but quite honestly, I was just a scroller. I wasn't really spending a whole lot of time being intentional with what I was doing. So in 2019, I started to recognize that, hey, maybe there's something here. More and more people are creating content. I'm seeing influencers for the first time. And quite honestly, I had gotten to a point in my role. I was a sales manager, had been promoted to director of sales. And part of that was starting to build a team underneath me of managers. Those managers turned out to be so darn good at what they did that they almost pushed me out of a job. I didn't have much to do because they had taken on so much responsibility. So as a director of sales, I was looking for another way that I could benefit my team. Well, what I figured was if I could make the sale easier for them because people knew us, liked us, and trusted us through content creation, then maybe I wasn't necessarily closing the deal for them, but I was making the deal easier to come by because if somebody checked out our company, they were going to see endless amounts of content. They were going to get informed and hopefully entertained a little bit. And they were just going to have a good feel for the brand. And so in doing that, I started to create content. And what I recognized very quickly was if you're consistent with putting content out, people start to pay attention. So I watched my following go from like 1,000 to 1,500 in a couple months. Next thing I know, by the end of 2019, I was up to 3,000, 4,000 followers just by creating content that quite honestly wasn't very good, but I was just doing it on a daily basis. So the consistency had gotten me to where I wanted to go. What was really interesting about that, though, was I came to realize that it wasn't about the content. It was more about the comments. It was about creating content so that people had something to look at when they went to your profile page, and there was something to actually learn or to engage with. But what I found was this reciprocity formula, where if you commented on the post of others and you actually really took the time to view their post and say something of substance, and you did this repeatedly, it actually compelled them to take a deeper look into your profile, and then they would follow. And the more I put content out about what we did, the more DMs I started to get from people saying, hey, by the way, I saw that you could do this. Can you also do that? Next thing I know, DMs are coming in inquiring about orders. So for the first time in my career, I had shifted the outbound focus, turned into an inbound focus, because I was putting content out there and it was influencing people to reach out to me to inquire about services. So all of a sudden I started creating sales revenue through content creation. And I thought to myself, well, this is much better. This is a lot better than calling 150 people in a day. Can you imagine? If you're not in sales, you don't understand this. But if you've been in sales, you're sitting in a room, and after COVID, you're sitting probably by yourself, and you're making 150 phone calls to strangers. Now think about how counterintuitive this is for a second. This is sales. We get a name and a phone number of a company that we probably haven't done a ton of research on, but in our CRM, it tells us that they're a viable candidate or client, a prospective client. So we call up this number and we reach out to somebody who's a complete stranger that has no understanding of who we are, what we do, why we do it, how we do it, or who you are as a person. And we ask them for their most precious commodity, time. We ask them for the thing that you can't get back. You can lose money and make more of it. If you lose time, you can't get it back. So we call up a complete stranger and we ask them for the one thing that is most precious, time, so that we can present and pitch them on something that they weren't interested in, they didn't even know existed, and they may not even have a need for. And then we wonder why they won't accept the appointment. So I started to recognize that I could take the 150 phone calls and cut that in half and take that time, that half of that time became freed up to start creating compelling content. And what I started to recognize when I made compelling content and I put it out there, guess what got easier? The phone calls. The phone calls got easier because in some cases, I may have already engaged with some of the people or they had seen my content. So when I made a phone call, the name might have been recognizable. Or I had engaged with them and sent them a DM saying, hey, I'm going to call you. And at that point, I recognized that I could take 3 to 4 hours of my day, create multiple little content pieces, put content out on multiple channels all the time. And what ended up happening was the phone calls that we traditionally would make, the emails that we would traditionally make in the business development and sales equation became much easier to make. They had a higher conversion rate, and I spent less time throwing shit at the wall and more time being targeted. So in 2020, we all know what happened. I'm not going to get into that BS, but we all know what happened. And I was in an industry that was dealing with marketing, events, selling promotional products. You could only imagine what happened when all the events came to a crashing halt, what happened to our sales. Well, guess what? Because I had started establishing content in 2019, when nobody was answering their phone because we had their office line and not their cell phone, when nobody was returning emails because they knew that their marketing budget had been completely squashed and frozen. So why would you want to take that call when you know it's just going to be a hard no? You're just going to have to constantly tell people, I don't have any budget. You don't even want to take the phone call. So what ended up happening was people they ghosted us out. But guess where they were? Because they weren't answering their phone. You know what they were doing? They were scrolling on that phone. So I figured out very quickly, and I'm sure a lot of you did as well, that if they're not answering the phone, they're still on the phone. They're just using it for a different method. They're scrolling on it. So because we were showing up and creating content and being on that platform, it became very easy at that point to reach out to the people that were on my list of connections, that were part of my followers, to tag people and to get their attention. And as I continued to put content out, letting people know what I stood for, what I was all about, And I was showing positive energy that, hey, no matter in a crisis, we're still going, man. We're still operating and we're agile and we've adjusted and we've shifted. And what ended up happening was people started to engage with me through social media. At that point, I said, you know what? Let me talk to the sales team about doing this. So we started to implement strategies for content creation, engaging with clients, commenting on their posts and following company pages. And it kind of sparked some energy around the brand. Even though events were slowing down, there was still an avenue for promotional products that were PPE, face covers and hand sanitizer and all this stuff. We all know about what was going on there. People started making orders. I started getting appointments through LinkedIn, and it turned into revenue. And I went, okay, here we go. We're on to something. So now I can do my outbound. I was getting inbound traffic in 19. Now in 2020, I figured out how to use LinkedIn to get outbound traffic. So now I got inbound and outbound going without making a phone call. Now I'm awake. So leading up to that, I had pitched the idea of starting a podcast. And the concept of the podcast, man, I don't know, Zach, should I give the secret sauce here? I don't know if I should give the secret sauce away. Maybe. Little bit. I'm going to give him the secret sauce. I'm going to give him a little bit. We are here at Reiki Interiors. Special shout out. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode and allowing us to be in this amazing facility. By the way, if you're looking for interiors for your corporation, you've got to check out Reiki Interiors. They are the best. They can build it right here in the United States. They can set it up, install it, and they have designers that are the best of the best. So if you don't have the ideas and you need somebody to help kickstart that, Reiki Interiors has got you covered all the way around. So here's what ended up happening. I came to the realization that if I brought people into the office, when everything started to settle down going into 2021 and people started to get back out and going to events and going to offices and taking tours, I said, you know what? I'm not going to do a virtual podcast. We need to have an in-studio podcast where we bring people in for the tour. Why? We wanted them to feel the culture. So part of the strategy was to bring people in that were current customers so that they could feel the culture that they had felt from afar, but now we brought them into the four walls of our building and we just radiate energy, positivity, knowledge, expertise, and they feel that vibe. So we had built all these different things like a wish board. I put a wish board up in the sales department. I started writing wishes up like we're gonna hit 120% of budget. That's my wish, right? I encouraged the whole team to go up and put wishes on the wish board. So they would go up and they would write, I'm going to pay off my mortgage. I want to get married by the end of the year. I'm going to move out of my parents' house, whatever it was. And above it, I put a tagline that said, dream big, live bigger. And what I wanted was to create this energy where the team was rooting for each other to achieve the bigger goals, not just making sales, not just achieving an income, but achieving life goals. So we'd bring in a guest who was a current customer to be on the podcast, and we would have them write a wish on the wish board. We'd give them a tour, we'd show them that. And then we went and bought this big gong. Now, I'm not saying that you got to buy a big gong, but you got to have some traditions at your organization. So we set up this big gong. We bring people in that were marketing executives and CEOs or heads of licensing at universities, and they had been seeing previous guests come on. We took videos and we put it out on social media of this CEO hitting a gong and the excitement that was around that. People would come in and go, hey, can I hit your gong? So all of a sudden, this energy came around that. So now we got people feeling like they're part of our culture. We bring them in, we would record with them, and we promote them for the week leading up, the week during. Then we would push the podcast out, and then we would promote them with clip after clip after clip after clip, and we would tag them on every single post. And the feedback that they would give us was, my gosh, my college roommate called me and asked me, why in the world was I on a podcast? It was awesome. So now all of a sudden, their community of people, their peers, their friends, their family are reaching out to them saying, that was amazing that you were on a podcast. It made them feel like $1 million, and they started getting recognized for it. So now we've made them part of the culture, and now outside of our culture, they're getting recognized for their contribution on the podcast. So that energy just multiplies. What ended up happening was we created this brand affinity amongst our current customers. Now, the current customers in the recording would, of course, feel this this energy, and they would feel like they owed us something for the experience. So what would they do? They would say great things about our brand on the podcast. Well, guess what that turns into? An amazing testimonial clip. So now we created this catalog of testimonials that we could push out, and we could send out into the social media stratosphere. And by the way, there's nothing you could say about your brand that even comes close to holding the jockstrap of what a current customer could say about your brand. Not even close. When somebody that you're doing business with says something amazing about your brand in a natural and authentic way, and it just comes up in conversation, there is no better testimonial that you could possibly put on social media than that. After 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes, we've now got a catalog of clients that are saying amazing things about our brand, but 90% of the content that we were giving to them was to promote their brand. The second thing, we brought in prospective customers. So I went to the sales team. I said, let me ask you a question. Who are some of the folks that you're communicating with and you just can't get them over the finish line? Or they're buying from you, but they're only buying one category of the things that we sell, and you need to open them up into multiple categories, but you just can't quite get them across the finish line. So we started reaching out to those folks and saying this. Now, what I had referred to the outbound uncomfortable call. So let's flip the script here a little bit. This phone call is very difficult. Hello, I'm a complete stranger. Do you have 15 seconds so I can beg you to listen to me, so I can beg you to meet with me, so that I can hard sell you on something that you don't need, want, or have an impulse for? That's one call. Or imagine this phone call. Hey, I've looked at your LinkedIn. I looked at your website. I looked at your track record. We believe that you would be an amazing guest on our podcast. We'd like to feature you and promote you on our channel and to our community. Which one do you think is an easier phone call and has a stronger likelihood of a good response? Obvious answer. So what we recognized really quick was those folks that didn't want to take the phone call, didn't want to move forward with us on some of the offers that we had made, were very easily influenced to come in and meet with us and be on a podcast to present who they are, what they do, why they do it, and tell their story. So they would come in. Once again, we'd put them through the total process. We'd introduce them to the sales team. There was an email that went out to the whole team. Hey, look, we've got so-and-so coming in at this time. When they walk through the sales department, please stand up and introduce yourself. We're going to have them hit the gong. We're going to have them meet the belt winner. We're going to have them feel our culture. Then I would take them to the CEOs. They'd have a conversation with the CEOs. They'd feel like $1 million. And then we would go record. So when they sat down to record, they've already had an amazing experience before we've even asked them a question. Now at that point, their energy level is up. So they make for a better guest because they're revved up. And at that point, they feel like they want to tell stories. They want to talk. They want to talk about who they are. You've shown them your brand. They want to brag about their brand. So what ended up happening from there is we would take all of the content clips and we would send them to the guest and their marketing team. So we're posting it on multiple channels. I wake up one morning after about a year of doing this. I flip on LinkedIn and I see my face 7 times by 10 o'clock. And I hadn't even posted yet. It was all of our previous guests. In an effort to promote themselves, they were promoting us in doing so. And I thought to myself, there you have it. That's the answer. I also want to send a shout out to another sponsor, Buku Branded. I know that you're going to buy promotional products. We have marketing spend. We know that it's allocated. You're going to spend it on promotional products for trade shows. You're going to have giveaways. You're going to give people those golf shirts with the logo. And we know the golf season is getting started, Zach. So people are absolutely going to be doing golf events. They're going to have the handouts, trade show season, all these different things. Now, you can get your promotional products from anywhere. There's no problem with that. There's a ton of options to get promotional products, but there is only one that is Buku Branded that gives 100% of their net profit. Let me say that again. 100% of their net profit to advance literacy in the United States of America. What in the world do I mean by that? When you make an order, let's say you spend $1,000, typically for a promotional products company, the net profit on that is about 8%. They're going to give that 8% net profit to 4 literacy beneficiaries to buy books and provide literacy services to children throughout the United States. Because if they read, they imagine. If they imagine, they can do anything. So we want to give people in underserved communities an opportunity and an advantage to be able to read, to be able to grow, and to be able to live out their dreams. Buku Branded, that's where it's at, www.bukubranded.com. They are the best, so if you need anything logoed, reach out to them. The third was to bring in folks that were influential, authors, athletes, innovators, rainmakers, book writers, like people that are public speakers, people with big followings that are used to being on camera, used to being on stage, used to promoting brands. We would have them in to tell their story and to promote them. And guess what? When their following came to watch them, their following saw us. And so the rule of thumb in podcasting, especially when you're doing it for a business, the rule of thumb is they come for the guest, they stay for the host. So when they come to see that guest that they've been following and they want that vibe from that guest and they want to feel and learn those stories and get those fun facts and get those helpful hints, as a host, if you are curious and you dive deep and you're authentic and you're vulnerable and you're a storyteller and you're entertaining and you're inspirational, guess what? A good portion of those folks that came to see their person now became your person. They stick with you. So that was the 3-pronged approach. Bring in your current customers, make them feel like $1 million, promote the heck out of them. They'll feel compelled to promote you back. Bring in prospective customers that you couldn't get over the fence, promote the heck out of them, make them feel like $1 million, make them feel like part of the culture, let them brag about how great their brand is. They will feel like they owe you something, and that owe you something is typically giving you a chance or introducing you to somebody that potentially could become a customer. And the third was to leverage people that have an amazing following because that following might become part of your following. What ended up happening? Guests became deeper customers. The depth of partnership grew. They started to buy. So it multiplied. Prospective customers who had never heard of us, never bought from us, or were feeling like they just wanted to stop right there, they opened up the doors and they said, you know what? Let's give them a shot because guess what? I knew them, but I didn't know if I liked them. And if I knew them, but I didn't know if I liked them, I certainly couldn't trust them. But now I know them, I like them, and I trust them. And all of that happened before we ever gave them a pitch of who we are, what we do, how we do it, our pricing, all those different things. So what ended up happening was people were buying from us because they knew us, liked us, and trusted us before they ever got to price and product. We were getting opportunities. So 1 time is luck, right? 2 times, you might be onto some sort of a trend. So I end up coming to a point in that career at that podcast where I said, you know what? I need to go investigate what I'm really capable of. Is there more to life? Is there another brand that I could go to? And I had this inclination, I had this burning desire to potentially become an entrepreneur. It was kind of a little fire burning in me, but you know, we all have that imposter syndrome. We all have fear. And I certainly at that point in my life definitely did not have the financial capability to really take that risk. But I was going to go for it. So I was going to start a go-to-market strategy consulting firm where I was going to help companies to build out this business development strategy by using social selling and social media and video content creation as the way to create that opportunity. And I go to a networking event. Shout out to the boys at Level Up. I meet somebody who owns multiple businesses. Turns out they were a fan of the previous podcast. There was some interactions between the two companies. We had bought from them. They had bought from us. And essentially the conversation led to this. Hey, can you do for us what you did for them? So I ended up going out and starting another podcast. Now, the first podcast that I did went to top 5% globally for business and marketing. Now, you could sit here and say, wow, that's absolutely outstanding and phenomenal, but you want to know what the real trick is to get in the top 5%? Be consistent. Just keep putting content out there. Most people who start a podcast or start a video content creation series, they die off after 2, 3, 4 episodes. They quit on it. You know why? They want virality. They want to go viral. Everyone wants to go viral. You ain't going viral, okay? And the people that have gone viral typically were already celebrities. They already have a status, or they did something so polarizing, so comedic, so different, so unique, and they're so skilled at it that they go viral. Guess what all the algorithms show you? They show you all those creators. Why? Because they want you to dream that you're going to be like that. So they show you the top 1% on your feed, and you think that you're going to be like that. So you record 4 episodes, and you get 200 views across 4 episodes, 50 on average, and you think to yourself, well, I'm not worth a damn, and I quit. And I ask you right now, if 50 people a week gave you an hour of their time for you to present or pitch your service, would you take that hour? Would you take that up? Would you pitch 50 people a week for an hour? Would you be thankful that they gave you that hour? Most people give up before they get going. They give up out of embarrassment, fear, whatever the reason is, but they don't see that they're going to get enough of a return on investment to justify the effort. And I say they're crazy because they didn't give it enough time. And I'm proof of that because I got to top 5% globally for a business and marketing podcast that, quite honestly, was not my best work. It was good work. It was fun, but it wasn't my best. But what it was consistent. Every week, same day, same time, that podcast dropped. Every single day, clips went out. Like a machine, we worked that process. And because of working that process, it multiplied, and it created an energy. So I took that and did it again. Went to that company with that gentleman who owned 3 businesses, built a podcast. That podcast in 40, 50 episodes got to top 10% globally for business and marketing as well. And again, not because it was the greatest work ever. It was better work than the first podcast that I did because repetition makes you better at anything. I got better at doing the podcast. The guests that we had on were better guests. They were more compelling, better stories. We dug deeper. We got more emotional, more authentic, more vulnerable. And that turned into a really, really great experience for the guest. It turned into opportunity. It opened up doors, and it created a lot of brand attention and exposure. And here's the cool thing. All of the social media channels for all 3 brands went up by 500 to 2,000% in the 1 year that I was doing that. So the brand attention that those 3 companies got was accelerated at a level never like before in the history of that company. I'm really proud of the work there. But as I was there, I got a hankering to do something. And what I always recognized, running a podcast for a brand where you are a brand evangelist and you're the voice of the brand is like threading a needle. It's really hard. You got to be on brand. So you can't be, I think at the beginning of this podcast, I started off by saying that's bullshit. There's no way that I would have said that on those other podcasts because, quite honestly, I had to thread the needle for somebody else's viewpoint. Somebody else wanted me to be authentic, but they wanted me to be their version of my authentic. They didn't want me to be truly authentic. They wanted me to fit into their brand guidelines and their boundaries. And I certainly understand that. And guess what? I was really damn good at it. But what I recognized was you can only do so much when you're kind of trapped in that box. It's not nearly as compelling or interesting. So I started to recognize through content creation that you can only put a camera on and talk about how you do it and what you do so much. At some point, you have to tell people who you really are, what you really stand for, why you really do it. You have to be vulnerable and authentic. But there's another piece that I recognized that was missing, and that's being entertaining. So I had this idea because I had created content, even for LinkedIn, where I would go to the driving range and I would hit golf balls, and then I would deliver a brand message promoting the brand, and it would get 10x the views and the engagement because it was entertaining. It was something different. So I always had this idea that I was going to start this podcast that was going to be from the golf course while playing golf, but it was going to be like smashing together Bryson DeChambeau and Grant Horvat with the School of Hard Knocks. While playing golf, I was going to interview business owners to talk about their brand, talk about who they are, what they do, and we were going to use the golf portion of that to be entertaining. So we launched the Golf with JMO Show.
Welcome to the Golf with JMO Show. We're back at the Highlands of Elgin, home of the Grumpy Goat Tavern.
Are you having fun yet? Are ya?
And I think, well, this is a huge risk. I'm doing it as a side gig. We've got a few GoPros. We're just kind of winging it. And I have an amazing guest, Brian Floriani, on, who is the founder of Bernie's Book Bank and the co-founder of Buku Branded. Thank you for sponsoring.
Well, I can't hit it any harder. No, I mean, that was pummel.
He's 50-year-old bone.
Bones, you got to make the holes bigger, guys. Come on, the holes have to be bigger.
I'm here for you.
That's why I brought you. I figured, who could pick up my putter for me today?
Yeah.
I have him on as the first guest. Now, he played golf all through high school and college. He won the Delaware State Championship. This is a really good stick, right? He also was a teacher on Golf Digest. And so we have him on. We do a two-man scramble. We fill the whole damn thing. It's totally patched together. It's a pilot episode. I build a brand new YouTube channel. I put it up on YouTube. And wouldn't you know it, the first episode gets 1,200 views without any paid ads, all purely organic, no real promotion. And the 5 or 6 or 7 clips that I put out got like 50,000 views. I think to myself, oh my gosh, we're on to something. And I start getting feedback from people like, hey, you really found your lane. This is it. So I decide that I'm going to launch, hey, we've got this channel. We've started this channel. And boom, put it out on LinkedIn, and it just, people are just liking and commenting and liking and commenting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people really see the value of this because it's entertaining. Content for LinkedIn and content in general, even if it is about business and about interviewing people about their personal brand, their story, and their intellectual property and their sophistication and their business techniques, if it's entertaining, there's a strong likelihood that people are going to engage with it. They're going to watch it. So we put this content out, and next thing I know, people are saying, hey, can I be on the show? I want to play. I want to be on the show. This is pretty cool. So I start bringing on guests beyond Brian Floriani, and wouldn't you know it, those guests after the show say, what an amazing experience. Can you build something like this for me? Can you do a video content series? Can you build a brand? And 444 Media is born out of that. So creating content multiplies and multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. And next thing you know, we've got a business. So out of the first 6 guests that I have on the Golf with JMO show, 3 of them become clients. Isn't that something? We start pushing out 444 Media, and we launched this company. And now after 7 months, 8 months, we now are at 12 shows, and we will have 15 shows probably by the time that this episode airs, which is actually pretty compelling. Now, that all came from creating content, putting podcasts out, telling brand stories, giving and giving and giving and not expecting anything in return, promoting other people with everything that you have, and then being in the right place at the right time when they see the light that they need to do something like that. And what has ended up happening has been nothing short of brilliant, and I'm eternally grateful for it. This, my friends, is how you build up the brand. All right, so listen, we're going to wrap this thing up. I'm going to tell you what is going to happen over, hopefully, the next 5 to 10 years, all right? So this is the first one. Clock it. Ring the bell. We did it, Zach. We put it out here. Here's what you should expect on upcoming episodes. I am going to bring on CEOs, executives, rainmakers, authors, athletes, musicians, comedians. I'm going to bring on creatives, people that are doing things out in the marketplace that are absolutely brilliant, creators that are doing amazing things, people that have built up brilliant pages, podcast hosts. I'm going to put them in the hot seat. I'm going to learn from them. I'm going to dig in and figure out what they're doing. I'm going to bring on innovators in all types of industries to talk about how have they built their brand? How did they get people to go above and beyond? How do they get people to do things they didn't even think they could do? It's one thing for you to get somebody to do something that you didn't think they could do. It's a whole nother thing to get people to do things that they didn't even think they could do. That is magic. We're going to talk to brands that came up with some sort of software, idea, AI, that holy cow, they've tested it and now it's absolutely launched and it's helping people to get to a whole nother level. We are going to bring on innovators and we want you to come along for the ride. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I poured my heart, my energy into it. I don't know if it was the most compelling or greatest entertainment that you've ever seen, but I hope that you felt my heart. And again, this was intended to introduce you to what we are going to be doing here. And it gets really fun when we start bringing people in and we start interviewing, because that is my pocket. I can't wait to do it.